politics, no religion, no criticizing other people. Always show your face, and there's a fifth rule. No politics. Oh, no, sorry. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Daybreak Stories, a sub-series of Daybreak dedicated to telling what happens behind the scenes and on set of the talk show. So let's begin, and this is episode 3, New Rules. So, when I say new rules, when I first started Daybreak, we had no rules whatsoever. I mean, I guess the one rule would be no politics, was our main rule, because as many talk shows existed, such as Conan, Conan, then there's Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Tonight Show, The Late Show, The Late Late Show, all the late night shows. They're, for what I've seen, they're very political. Like in their monologues, like if you, especially Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, especially now because of the election, if you watch them, they're all talking about Trump did this, or Joe Biden did that, or Hillary did this, or someone of a political figure, McConnell did that. Like they're all political monologues, and you watch late night to get away from real life and to see that thing, and by bringing up politics, it's just like, well, I'm back in it now, especially because the election is today, for when I'm filming this. Today is Tuesday, November 3rd. This will be released, though, on Sunday, November 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th? Yes, the 8th. Sorry, my schedule over here. It'll be released November 8th, so this was not relevant, but they're all very political, and I didn't want that in my show. So the only rule I had on the first episode of Daybreak was no politics. I don't want to hear anyone talk about politics. So when I created that rule, I'm like, okay, well, now there's a few people who I am really skeptical to have on the show. And I decided to, you know what? Maybe they'll be fine. Maybe, just maybe, they will hold it together and not talk about politics for the show. So we'll see how it goes. Now, one of the main people I was concerned about was Grace Maroney. Grace Maroney did perfectly fine. She didn't talk about politics. She's very mature. She did it well. She actually was a really good guest. We've had her on almost, I think, either every or almost every season on the show. And she's done a fantastic job every single time she's been on and never talked about politics, which is awesome. And if we have brought up a slightly touchy topic, she's like, you know what, let's stay away from that. And that's usually on me. So, yeah, she's very good with that. Now, there's only one other person I was a little afraid about this. And that was Connor Long. So the first episode where I had Connor Long on, it was episode, well, depending on how you think about it, it was technically episode 3, but really it was episode 2 because, as I mentioned in the last Daybreak story, episode 1 and 2 were combined into one episode, and it was aired on the second episode date because of Easter, so I had to move it up. So it was scheduled to be the 3rd episode, but it was really the 2nd episode in the series because there wasn't really a thing. So, anyways, it's complicated. But yeah, so we had Connor Long on and Owen Comiskey. Now, what they wanted to do was talk about the election. That's all they wanted to talk about. They just said, hey, let's talk about politics. I'm like, that goes against the number 1 rule we have, not talking about politics. So just the introduction I was a little skeptical, and I'm like, you know what? You play the saxophone. Let's talk about the saxophone. You're good at school. You can talk about school if you want, but we're trying to stay non-political. And I was being very optimistic, and that might have been a downfall there. So on, let's see, when was the 2nd episode? That would have been, if April 19th was the 1st, the 28th, I think, April 28th. Well, yes, because that last episode carried into May, and okay, yes. So, yeah, so it was April 28th was, I think, yeah, of course, I'll put it on the screen if I'm wrong. April 28th was the second or 3rd episode, whichever one you want to characterize it as. So we had Connor Long and Owen Comiskey, and so I started off with Connor Long. Connor Long was my first guest, because I'm like, if he's political, he's the first guest. Then we have Owen Comiskey on, who's always a delight. He's very happy all the time, he's all this. So I could finish with Owen and then game, and then that'll sort of resolve all the issues there. But Connor and Owen are very, very good friends, and so I'm gonna explain the entire episode to you because it was quite an experience. We had Connor Long on come first, And I do not remember what my first question was. But I'm 95% sure we were talking about saxophone. And oh no, it was COVID. We were talking about COVID. Because in the first episode, we talked about COVID with a bunch of people. And because COVID had just started, so we're going to talk about COVID. So we're talking about COVID. So I asked him, like, what do you think the country could do to help stop this? Now, that in itself can be interpreted as a very political thing, because, of course, the person in charge of the country, not the person in charge, there's not really a person in charge of the country. I'd say that the most visual representation of main leadership in this country is the president. So he could take that very politically and say, well, the president can do this, this, and this, and this. And that by itself can be very, very political. And he took it very politically. So I said, what do you think the country could do to help stop the spread of COVID-19? And he said, he didn't know what he said, but he went on a very political, like 5 minutes. It's like a 5-minute political thing. And I'm like, you could, if you watch the video back, you have to go on the Instagram because it's not on YouTube. But if you watch the video back, you can see me visibly aggravated with his response. You can just see me like in the background, like, you can just see me in the camera. I watched it back, I'm like, wow, I really do look angry. And I kind of was, because I'm like, that was the main thing we talked about before the show. No politics, and here we go into politics. So since that episode, every time I've had a guest on, I list the 5 rules of Daybreak. And so the first one we've covered so far is politics. So I write note 1, no politics. So the second rule that we've implemented since Connor Long's episode was no criticizing groups of people. Now that sounds like something that doesn't need to be said, because if you're a courteous person, you should know that already. But you can already see where I'm going with this. It does need to be said now because of episode 2/3. When we had Connor Long on, when he was talking about politics, he brought up New York, and he went just off on the entire state and its people. And I'm like, no, you can't just accuse 8 million people there's 8 million people. No, that's Massachusetts. There's 8 million people in New York City, I think. I'm like, you can't accuse an entire 8 million people of doing something. But he went off. He was just like, people of New York don't care. They don't do this. They don't do that. I'm like, again, I was visibly aggravated. So the second rule is no criticizing groups of people. I'm gonna characterize them as the Connor Long rules, because they all came from that episode. So that's no criticizing groups of people. But again, Sam just commented, basic etiquette. Yeah, if you're on someone's show, just in general, you don't want to criticize groups of people. Because I have viewers on from the state of New York. In fact, I've had guests on from the state of New York. I've had on Hannah Houlette. She was the first guest in season 5. I've had on Cora Thompson, who was the last episode of season 4. With Thomas O'Toole. That might have been all of New York there. I think I've only had 2 guests from New York. But yeah, I just, you can't criticize groups of people. And it's just like, why would you? I mean, just like, come on, man. Anyways, going on to rule number 3. Now, I'm not doing this in order, of course, but I'm doing rule number 3 would be you have to show your face. So when you have a talk show, of course, you want to be talking to a person. Now, the show is not for me. For example, when I'm so let me give you an example. If I want to do a game, or if I'm showing an image, I don't do this. I don't want you to look at me. It doesn't work right now because the sun's out, but in the morning the sun's not out. I want you to look at the image. That's what I'm showing. If you're looking at me, then you're not paying attention. So I I turn my light off so that you can see the person. Now, of course, I didn't have lighting back in episode 1 because I didn't understand how it worked. And so I just had to tell my guys just after that episode, because I thought it was like common sense, just like if you're gonna go on someone's show, you gotta have your light on. I mean, you want to see your face. So Connor didn't have his light on, so that issue wasn't with Connor. It was very dark, but you could see him. With Owen Comiskey, he didn't show his face. He turned his camera, like, I don't know what he did, but I think he just put his phone down. He said, I don't want to show my face. And I'm like, I didn't make him do it that episode, but he came on again and he had his camera facing him that time. But you got to show your face, because the point of a talk show is to talk to the person. You're not talking to a black screen. So you have to show your face. We haven't had an issue since then. Occasionally lights have been dark or the image wasn't clear. Like when Owen Comiskey came back again, the light was dark. You could see him, but the light was still dark. Cora Thompson, the image wasn't great, and the camera, it was just dark. So it was difficult to see. I mean, you could still make out where she was and where her face was. You could talk to her, but it was very difficult to talk. But we got through it. No show goes without its difficulties. But yes, that's where the rule came from with you have to show your face. Now, so we've talked about no politics, no, you have to show your face, and no criticizing groups of people. Now, there's two others. This never came up. I don't think. If it did, then wow. But one of them was, this was also one of the original rules, no talk of religion. Not that it's not that I disapprove of your religion. It's that I don't want someone, like, if you're, again, it would include criticizing groups of people. You can't accuse a religious group of doing something bad. I don't want negativity towards a religion or someone to feel like they're the other because we're only talking about one religion. So I'm like, we don't need to talk about religion. Just steer clear of religion. Doesn't need to be said. We're just talking about your life. I mean, we don't need to do that. So that's just a bit. It's not like if you're Christian, I hate you. It's just like I just don't really want to talk about religion on the show. It's more just like, what sports do you do? What do you like about school? Do you have any special interests? Do you do music, art, whatever? It's all like, it's not about like, are you Christian? Are you this? Are you that? It's just, I don't care. Now, so that's the fourth rule. And then the fifth rule is no swearing. Because I have two cousins. I don't know their ages. They're somewhere. They're below 10. I know that much. I think they're 4 and 6, or they might be 5 and 6, or 5 and 7. I don't know. But I feel like a parent is like, how old are you? It doesn't matter. But they're young, and I'm not going to have someone come on the show and start swearing. Now, occasionally, someone has swore on the show. Natalie Lacey came on the show in the first episode of season 3. She was the first video on YouTube. When I had Natalie Lacey on, which was season 3, episode 1, we were doing Guess That Song. And the song, she was trying to guess one of the songs, and she said the F word because she couldn't remember what it was. I think it was a Bruno Mars song. Now, that was, and I think that was like the only time someone has swore on the show. Which is good, actually, considering the age group we have. That's pretty much all high schoolers, and that's pretty much all they talk about. So, but I think we made through with that. It's just, kids are watching. I don't want them repeating anything. So, but she was an amazing guest, by the way. So I don't have any hate towards her. She was an absolutely amazing guest. She's one of my favorite guests of all time. She was just so open. She was talking about it. And it was good. It was a good show. But yeah, so those were the 5 rules. No religion, no politics, no criticizing groups of people, no swearing, and you have to show your face. The show your face one is the most recent. I think I added that in season 4. I think just because of Cora Thompson, which was the last episode of... No, actually, I don't know. But I think that's the most recent one, so... Bye, Grace. Enjoy your class. So, yeah, I think that was the most recent, and I think since then, all the rules have been followed. Everyone has shown their face. I think, besides Cora Thompson, let's start at season 3 and go through everything. So, season 3 plus, everyone has shown their face. Cora Thompson was a little bit difficult to see, but we still saw her face. Natalie Lacey was the first episode, so I guess one person swore, but after the first episode of that season, no one swore after that. No one talked about politics, no one talked about religion, and no one criticized a group of people. Yeah, it's been very successful with our rules, and I feel like people don't like rules, especially if you're on high school, like, whatever. But it is important to follow them, especially for the audience we have. I want to make sure that everyone can watch it, not just certain groups of people, because it's for everyone. But yeah, so that's all I have to tell about this story. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I actually find I've watched the first episode. I think it's better to just listen to it, because there are visuals, but they're not like important visuals. So you just listen, you get the gist of it. And you can do something. You can read while you're listening, or you can look at your phone. It's a very nice. It's like it's good for listening. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Please catch the next story, which will be Wednesday. I don't know when that date is. Hold on. It'll be Wednesday, November 11th. And that episode will be Season Completed, What's Next. So that'll be what happened when we finished Season 1, what's going to happen next. That's actually an interesting topic. And I don't think it won't be incredibly long, but it'll be mid-size. I think it'll be about as long as the first episode. Maybe as long as this one. I'm not sure. I don't know how long this one is yet, because I haven't edited it yet. But yeah, we have, at current, episodes booked until January 13th. And it's not just like every Sunday they're on. They're every Sunday and Wednesday. So we have 22 episodes already. And probably more to come. So, yeah, this is going to be I filmed 2 episodes today, so we'll get a lot in. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Do catch the next story, and I'll see you next time at Daybreak Stories. Bye, everybody.